get going here in just a second. And greetings and good evening to you all. How are you? It is the 23rd day of December, 2021. Good to see everybody. I don't know that this will be a terribly long video. I just kind of wanted to tell a Christmas tale of sorts and then wrap up. I've still got baking to do. I've still got some going on out there. I was not really baking so much. I've got a couple of cheesecakes that are in the process of cooling right now. And then I wrap those up and tuck them away in the fridge. But anyway, I just thought it would be fun to, while I'm coming on to talk about the Christmas Advent, the Star Wars Lego Christmas Advent, to tell you guys about it. About another Star Wars gift that I received once. But if you haven't been following along, well, you're a little late. But I will show you. We have been doing the Star Wars Lego Christmas Advent. Now, I got this last year, not as a Christmas gift, but I went through the Advent calendar last year. But I thought, hey, I'll do it this year too. So let's take a look at this. Every day we've gone through a separate piece, and today we are going to look at the 23rd. Yesterday was a Stormtrooper, just a good old-fashioned Lego Stormtrooper, and a darn nice one at that. So we'll pop him back in his slot, number 22. And look in 23, and what do we have in 23? I was a little confused by this one when I saw it last year, but it is, drumroll please, Darth Vader's palace on the lava planet, and I forget what it's called, but there you go. I guess if you were particularly imaginary type, you might say, oh, it's also a very cool experimental Imperial fighter ship. But no, that is Darth Vader's palace. So that is the Advent piece for the 23rd, and tomorrow will be the last one. Oh, I forgot. There's... Uh-oh. There's another little piece to it, but it's currently eluding my grip. Hang on a second. Well, hello, Dungeon Minister. How are you? Ah, yes. A TIE Fighter. A tiny, tiny TIE Fighter. I think that's probably supposed to be Darth Vader's special TIE Fighter. So you got his palace and a little TIE Fighter there. Show that to you guys. You can see that. Hopefully that will come into focus. But there you go. Yeah, that is kind of obscure. And there's one more day. I wonder what it could be. I do indeed wonder what it could be. So let's flip back over. Now, I know a lot of people who play D&D, OD&D, AD&D, Basic Dungeons and Dragons from back in the day. A lot of them got D&D as their first game sets as a Christmas present. I did not. The first time I saw D&D in a store, anywhere, I thought it was kind of weird and neat, but it didn't really have an impact on me. It seemed kind of odd and mysterious, and I remember it was that bright blue or turquoise expert D&D rule book. I think it may have just been by itself. It was the rule book I saw in a toy store. Was it Circus World, Toy World, something like that, at the mall in Gadsden, Alabama. The year before we moved away, but it wasn't really on my radar. Like, it wasn't until I came to Florida and heard other kids talking about it and actually got to see a D&D module that I thought it was super cool And my first D&D that I got was in the springtime. At that time, when I lived in Gadsden, Alabama, which if you're not familiar with it, it is a town in the extreme northeast of Alabama. It's closer to Atlanta than it is to Montgomery. You're about 45, 50-minute drive, maybe an hour, hour and a half to Atlanta. You're about a 2.5-hour drive from Montgomery. But there we are. And it is a nowhere town. There's not a lot going on there. Shortly after we moved away, let me see, when I was a kid, there were three movie theaters in the town. There was one downtown, and I don't remember. I think that was called the Ritz. It was your classic twin movie theater, lots of neon out front, very cool. I thought when I was a kid, I saw Grease there. I only ever saw one movie. My Aunt Donna took us to see Grease at the Ritz downtown in Gadsden. Most of the movies I saw, including Star Wars, was at the Agricola Twin, which was at the far end of a shopping center. Hiya, Katie. Gosh, we saw Star Wars and Black Beauty and Star Trek the Motion Picture and I think Pete's Dragon. And then there was the Gadsden Mall Twin, the new theater. We saw a few there too. I want to say we saw the Aristocats there when Disney brought it back as a run. And then they opened up a quad movie, a Cineplex. And that was super cool. That was across the street and up Rainbow Drive just a little bit from, was it Rainbow Drive? Or was it Meekin Boulevard? I don't remember. But that is where I saw The Empire Strikes Back. That's also where I saw The Black Hole, Disney's movie, science fiction film, which has very steeply divided audiences. Like, some people love it and think it is a masterpiece of science fiction suspense and a bold move for Disney, and other people hate it. I actually fall in the former category. I think it was pretty darn good. And if you've never seen it, avail yourself of it if you can find it. I really like it. It's not quite on the same level as Aliens creepy, but it's still, it's pretty terrifying. It's got a guy who gets he gets his chest drilled into by a robot with rotating blades on his hand. They don't show gore. They just show the thing hitting him with the rotating blades on the hand, and he flies off of a gantry into a pit and presumably to his death. But the movie that sticks out for me, of course, the most is Star Wars. I loved Star Wars. When I got home, I remember one year for Christmas, I had gotten a Lego helicopter. And I took it apart, and I made an X-Wing fighter with it. At least as best as I could remember what an X-Wing fighter looked like. But man, oh man, did I love Star Wars. And it was Christmas of let's see, so that came out in the summer of 77. So I guess it would have been Christmas of 77, maybe of 78, guys. If I'm misremembering this, you're like, no, Bill, you're completely wrong. Toys didn't come out. But the year Star Wars toys were released, and I mean, I didn't know this for many years, but George Lucas told 20th Century Fox Yeah, I want all of the licensing money from toys. Any profits from that, I want to come to me. And they laughed and they signed off on it because, hey, box office was where it's at. George Lucas was brilliant in that respect. So, you know, he made a ton of money because people went gaga. This was the first serious film toy tie-in. I would say for science fiction, the only thing that could come close to it prior to that was probably Buck Rogers. Or Flash Gordon. But we'll touch on that in just a minute. So imagine my surprise that Christmas morning when I came down, and in boxes from me were a bevy of Star Wars toys. Action figures, almost all of which I still have. My Sandman, Tusken Raider, I don't know what happened to him. He's gone. I maybe he's in a box somewhere. Maybe one day I can go through and I can find him, but I can't find my Tusken Raider anymore. But I've got a Jawa. Luke, Han, 2 stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, R2 and 3PO, and Chewbacca, of course. So I had all these Star Wars figures just... Phew. And I remember, Mom took them off the cards. She put them in a shirt box and taped them down. Threw those away. You know, the cards, just the pasteboard cards that the thing goes on, from 77 that are worth like, you know, $100 each now. But I got those for Christmas, but the centerpiece of it all. Now, it's interesting you bring that up, Katie. Probably lost in a sandbox somewhere. But I get it. Sand person, sandbox, you know. I didn't play with them outside. And the reason I didn't play with them outside was I had a lot of G.I. Joes. The 12-inch G.I. Joes and stuff like that. I played with them in the... really, it was a space between my house and the next house over. And they were all stolen and destroyed. I found one field jacket, one G.I. Joe field jacket. And the rest were trashed. I lost all of my G.I. Joes one night when I left them outside. But I never took my Star Wars figures outside. I never wanted that to happen. Always played with them inside. Kids would come over and say, hey, can we take these outside? And no, they stay in my room. I became very conscientious about that early on as a kid. But the centerpiece of it all, the thing that wowed me the most was this. And this is the original one. This is my Kenner X-Wing fighter from way back in 1977. Canopy's scratch up. I know how that canopy got scratched, by the way. Canopy's also a little flared out, a little bowed out because it got stepped on, so it doesn't close completely all the way. But that's it. I repaired it recently, by the way. I watched a YouTube video on how to fix the S foils. You push down on the R2-D2 button and it locks the S foils in attack position. And from about 1979 until just a few years ago, the S foils button was broken. And I watched a video on how to fix that. But you can lock it and then you push the button back. Now, it doesn't have batteries in it, but it wouldn't make a sound anyway if I pushed that, and there's the little bulb up front. The sound is not generated by a piezo. The sound is generated by a motor that turns and strums a little reed. It's like that when you push the button. The motor is seized up. The motor needs to have sewing machine oil dripped into it and be heartily turned. I'll do that. I think I'm going to do that this year, but the front nose ski goes up and down. These are all the original stickers. These are not repros. And many adventures. Luke Skywalker. I still have my Luke fig. My figs are in a box over yonder. But yes, many adventures had by Luke and Han and Leia and Chewie. The rare occasion Chewie would get to fly this. If I have a better Star Wars toy gift, I would say it might be the Millennium Falcon. Maybe I'll show that to you guys one day if you'd like to see it. The Millennium Falcon. Full bore, gigantic toy. Which Hasbro wanted that to be a play set. They thought that moms would not like the fact that it's a big giant plastic toy. So originally, I say, was it Hasbro? No, Kenner. I'm sorry. Kenner wanted the Millennium Falcon to be a playset. And a playset was basically a medium-size-ish plastic prop, but with a cardboard background. So, it didn't really do spaceshipy things. But Lucas said, no, it has to be a toy. And that thing was just enormous. Now, I knew I was getting that because we went to Sears and picked it up because my folks ordered it. And I remember holding the box on my lap on the way home. And it was like October, I think. And I knew that thing was sitting in my parents' closet waiting for Christmas. But, so maybe at this point you're kind of wondering, so what? You got neat toys as a kid and you still have them. Lots of nerds have toys. There's guys on YouTube who have spent small fortunes recollecting Star Wars toys, Star Wars vehicles, or they have their originals, They've got an X-Wing. They've got a TIE fighter. They've got Darth Vader's TIE fighter. They've got a Y-Wing. They have the Millennium Falcon also. They have that giant AT-AT. They have the Scout Walker. I have a Scout Walker over there. They have tons of it, and they have figures carded and loose. They have play sets. I had the Droid Factory, but it just kind of slowly over time lost bits and pieces and fell apart. I have 1 or 2 pieces of it left in my box of Star Wars figures. Here is why the X-Wing fighter and the Star Wars figures, I didn't want to just bring them out. Just here's a handful of them. I did not know that they were the greatest Christmas gift I got until a few months after my father passed away. My mother and my sister and I, this is before my mother was taken away from me by Alzheimer's, were discussing, I don't know, but Beth and Mom and I were sitting. I remember we were in a bedroom talking about Star Wars and the fact that I got these Star Wars figures. It never really registered on me, the what and the why. It wasn't merely a case of my dad looking at what was popular, what was trending, what did all the kids want, and saying, here, Star Wars is big, here's Star Wars. Dad saw how I was engrossed by Star Wars. And when I was a little kid, I very much was. And he wanted me to have Star Wars toys. He didn't just want to get them because they were a nice thing. My dad was a nerd. When my dad was a kid, he wanted Flash Gordon toys. My dad's father, my grandfather, was a piece of shit. I know I shouldn't say such things. He was not a good person. He was not a nice person. And my dad would be the first person to tell you this. You know, when my dad expressed a desire for Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers toys when he was a kid, my father's father, won't call him a grandfather, there was nothing grand about him, said, that's a bunch of sissy shit, were his words to my father. So he didn't get that. My dad felt very differently. Very differently. My dad used to nick my comic books when I got heavy into comic books when I was 13, 14 years old. My dad used to nick my comic books and read them. I would find them in such a state. I was putting them in backing boards putting them in bags with backing boards from an early get-go. It would drive me up the wall because I would find my X-Men with a spine just faintly curled. Dad loved Star Wars too. Dad loved watching me love Star Wars. And my sister, I presume. But he told my mom, he's got to have this. And so he bought the X-Wing fighter and the Star Wars figures. So, Star Wars figures, let's see. Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2, 3PO, Ben, Jawa, Tusken Raider, Darth Vader, Stormtrooper. That's a dozen at, I think they were $1.99 at the time, maybe $2.99. So that's conservatively, we'll call it $37, $38 with tax. And the X-Wing fighter was $14.99, $15, $45. Now, I probably got some other things at the time. But Dad dropped $200, the today equivalent of $200 on me for Christmas, just for Star Wars toys. And whatever other odds and ends I got when I was a kid. $191.84. My father made $150 a week, not counting little home repair jobs he would run around doing. My dad bought me Star Wars toys, not just to shut me up, not just to buy me what all the other kids would get. My dad bought me Star Wars toys because my dad had been to a galaxy far, far away with me. I mean, when the SFM Holiday Network, it was a pay-per-view cable system, you could tune in like over the course of a weekend. It's basically it was like a really limited version of on demand. And one year they released or they didn't release, but they showed Star Wars. You get these bootlegs of Star Wars that don't have the episode 4 A New Hope in the beginning. You can buy those at cons and everything, and they're really horrible, grainy dubs of beta tapes and so on. That's because when Star Wars first hit the theaters in the first release, there was no episode blah A New Hope. But it was 1999, and they would play it like 3 or 4 times over the course of a holiday weekend, hence Holiday Network. And I remember renting that. I remember us renting that, and I watched Star Wars on television, in black and white. Gosh, it was like 1982 or 1983, maybe later by the time HBO got Star Wars, and that was a big deal. But my dad loved me, and my dad loved seeing me love Star Wars, and it was my Buck Rogers and my Flash Gordon. And he basically spent way too much money. I mean, if we go back to the inflation calculator, $150 a week from the steel mill. That's $639.45. I mean, a family of 4 getting by on $33K. Is that even doable today? I don't know. But at the time, I mean, $600 a month, $7,200. Yeah, the median income in 1978 was $15,000. And Dad made half that. And when I found out that, I wish I really could have thanked him properly. But for all the years that went by and all of the stuff that I made, the stuff that I got rather for Christmas in terms of toys, looking back, the X-Wing fighter is the best. The Star Wars toys are the best. God bless my dad for getting that for me. I got a lot of interesting presents over the years that I really liked a lot. And as a grown-up, there's a lot of wonderful gifts. But it's what's behind the gift. It's the thought that went into it. It's my dad reaching out and just touching me right here on a level, connecting with me, getting a little bit of himself back, and coming through that trauma of an abusive parent to give me that. I may go through a lot of ups and downs and ins and outs, but knowing that now, knowing what I got, knowing that Dad bent over backwards and worked his fingers to the bone to do that, not just for me, but for himself. I just know words. I just don't have any words for it. Thank you, Daddy. That's about all I've got for tonight, guys. I'm not going to sit up till the crack in my ass on a live stream. I'll be back tomorrow to do the to do the final Advent piece. I bet you guys can guess what it is if you've been following the Advent all the way along. Got a lot of running around to do tomorrow. I've got a cheesecake to take down to my friends at Gods and Monsters. I've got a couple of things to do. Making cookies, watching movies, trying to relax. So that's about it. Until then, guys, have a good one. And if I don't see you tomorrow, I mean, if you don't pop back into the live stream tomorrow, Merry Christmas, and may the force be with you.